Is in June of 2024. It was the day before our 12-year anniversary, and it's probably a day we'll never forget. But we were in New York visiting Tom's family, and it went longer. The event went longer than we had expected, so we were all tired and hungry and overdue for a break. And we decided to pull over right before we got back to our hotel so that we could feed. Jacob was only a little over a few months old, so I was nursing him, and one of the kids wanted to take a bathroom break, so we pulled over, and without going into too much detail, Tom's anger and indifference hit everybody kind of like a brick wall, and the situation took a huge toll, and there was just something inside of me that broke that day. It was severe enough that it affected our children for many months afterwards, and I don't think it was the accident that broke me. It wasn't the trauma, but I think it was the realization that I felt completely alone and I was drowning and no one was going to come and save me. From that point on, the tension with me and Tom just grew worse, and my heart grew really hard. A month later, after going to the movies with my mom and my grandmother, I came home and Tom and I had another really big fight. But this time it was Kennedy that was in the middle of the trauma, and I know it affected her deeply because she relived it for days and weeks afterwards. And I just felt like if I needed to breathe, I needed to ask for permission, and I needed permission to even have a moment of peace, and that it was something that I had to battle every day with just to have my own time or even a break. It was around the same time that somebody at work he was already giving me a lot of attention, but I think that it sounded more enticing at this point because I was in such a low place in my life. He would just tell me like what an amazing mom I was, and that I was this total package of a deal, and that I was gorgeous, and it was things that Tom wasn't telling me, and I slowly just felt like I was coming back alive again. I knew from the beginning that it was wrong, and I started praying constantly. I even found a Christian counselor that I could talk to about it because I didn't know how to avoid the temptation, and I knew that my heart couldn't be trusted. So I begged God and met with this counselor weekly to try to fight the temptation, and then eventually, after months of fighting it, I just gave up. So I started listening to the wrong voices, who were my friends at the time. Friends who told me I deserved better, and Tom was never going to change, and divorce was really the only option on the table. And the hardest part for me was that I believed them. Eventually I just was like, they're right. This is the only option, is to get him out of the picture, really. So then what started as an innocent relationship, or as a friendship, turned into, I guess, a relationship, and it became something more, and it was complicated because we worked together, and then it created a craving for me to have this approval because of us working together. And that's when we both started looking for a way out of our marriage, or out of the marriage. And so I think it was by the end of the summer of 2024, I had already met with a lawyer, found a new apartment for me and the kids, and I decided I was done. So all I saw of Tom was that he was selfish, and especially as a father, and I didn't feel anything. There's definitely no love. Everybody would be, do you still love him? And I would say, I don't feel anything towards him. And so I asked Tom to move out in the end to make it easier on the kids. I continued with my relationship that was going on at work, and I thought I was sure of what path I was going forward. But God, right? But God. So through it all, I never stopped praying, which is kind of crazy, I guess, because people say that, oh, sin does separate you from God, but I had to pray because I thought I was the only thing holding me together, really. Some of my prayers were very ridiculous, but I still prayed. And my counselor later told me that it was even witnessing to her, which I thought was crazy, that I had talked to God, and even when I was sinning, it was just a powerful part of my testimony. But I can't imagine I'd even be here today without it. So I'm glad that I kept praying. I could feel that the separation between me and God was there, but I still just kept looking for him. I guess that's when the ultimate God moment happened, was that it doesn't really make any sense other than it has to be God, because even Tom will tell you that we don't know how it happened. I just, one day it was like a spark flew. Sometime in March, I had lunch with my mom, and I had told her I was filing for divorce. I was done. This was it. I made my decision, and I cried, and then she tried to be supportive. But it was that like same week, or maybe it was like the week after, that God renewed our marriage. So I can't even explain what happened other than God softened my heart, and he kind of showed Tom and I that our foundation was where our marriage began when we were dating. It like took us back. And then so we went out on a date, and I confessed everything to Tom and told him what had happened, even though he knew most of what was going on already. And after I unloaded my heart on him, instead of being angry or jealous, he started comforting me, which I was completely shocked by. He told me that he'd been praying for me and for us, and that he'd started putting God first in his life, and that he believed that God had made us for each other. So all the worry that he had, he didn't have it anymore. He just knew that we were going to work out. And you'd also been in counseling too, working with a Christian counselor from the same place, so that had helped build our relationship with God together and for ourselves. So in the 15 years that we were together, I had never heard him say anything about God. It was usually me that had brought up the praying and the faith, and God was definitely working on your heart too. And Tom kept reminding me, just give it to God, and all my fear and worries. And even though things had gotten better, I still hit rock bottom. Like, it was like the next day I couldn't even get out of bed. I didn't want to live anymore. I actually felt guilty because I was like thinking and praying, and I was like, I have 3 beautiful children down the hall, and I should want to get out of bed. I should want them. And I did, but at the same time I felt completely empty. And I actually started praying for God to just take my life. I was like, it'd just be easier if I wasn't here anymore. And it was really crazy, because then I saw this incredibly bright light, the brightest light I'd ever seen, and I just knew I was looking at Jesus. And he completely healed my heart. Like, I could feel it totally shattered. And then after the bright light, it was like warm, and it was just whole. I just felt like everything went back together. Like, it was almost better than before, which makes no sense. But I didn't feel alone, and I didn't feel like I couldn't live anymore. I felt like I could make the next step. So I heard Jesus. He was like, all right, let's get up. Let's go in the shower. We got to do this day. And so I did. And then I hopped in the shower, and I lost it all over again. But Jesus was there, and he was like, all right, next step is go pack your kids' lunches, get them to school. So I did like a zombie. I just kept listening and obeying until I finally did all my tasks. And then I finally went to work, and I was like, I cannot do this. And then I remember Jesus clear as day. He said, you do not have to do this, but you get to. So you get to make the decision right now, but I think you should do it. And I was like, so I did. I made it through the entire day, which was really tough because I work with this gentleman. So we went to work, and I just felt like Satan was on one side of me all day, but I had Jesus on the other side. And even though I felt like tempted all day, I could just feel secure. I mean, I was completely broken that morning, and I was sitting at my desk, and I felt completely secure in my identity before the end of the day. And it was the most unbelievable feeling that I could even tell this guy to leave me alone, really. And then another but God, right? So by April, less than a month later, Tom had moved back home. And miraculously, the apartment lease that was supposed to go through September of this year, it was already able to be rented by May, so we didn't have any lapse in the lease, right? And then it was just evident to us that God had worked out every detail of all of it.